Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Community Church Unitarian Universalist. I am your worship associate, Alicia, and it is a joy to be with you both in person and virtually today. So who are we as Community Church? We are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. Please look to your weekly email for announcements. Now that some of us are able to be back in church, we are continuing to broadcast services online. We are so thankful to the members who have made it possible for us to have virtual services during the pandemic, and we could use some more help on the tech side of worship so that we can continue streaming our worship services. So if you might be interested in joining our tech team, let us know. If you are joining us online, just a reminder that you are welcome to join us in person as well in our building. We just require a negative COVID test or proof of vaccine. A couple additional announcements. Please stick around after church for a congregational meeting. It should be brief, I imagine, because most of our meetings are pretty brief, which is great. We want to thank the McGeews for once again blessing us with a Christmas tree. And also helping us to add the first few ornaments. And perhaps we can carve out a little bit of time during the transition between this service and our congregational meeting to add some additional ornaments as well to get it looking nice and festive throughout the Advent season. And then another announcement from Marilyn Malone. Join us for pizza and a newcomers informational meeting on Sunday, December 19th, immediately following the service at 12:15 p.m. This gathering is open to anyone who is interested in learning more about our church and or membership. All are invited, guests, visitors, friends, CCUU members, etc. Unfortunately, we will not be able to provide childcare due to COVID-19 restrictions, but if you have children or otherwise cannot attend, we can plan a Zoom meeting for you. Just let us know. So please RSVP to membership@ccuunola.org, or you can contact Marilyn, Malone4@cox.net, or 504-421-1785 to RSVP. And again, that is on the 19th, here immediately following the service. So today, we are delighted to welcome back to our pulpit, Laura Miller. Laura Miller has been part of the CCUU family since 2014. Her career was primarily in theater, but recently she has been working as an environmental activist, fighting mountaintop removal coal mining. Her college career began locally at Newcomb College of Tulane University. Her Ph.D. in theater arts and dance is from the University of Nebraska. Laura is also a Wiccan High Priestess, a Reiki Master, a former Democratic County Chair, and a two-time National Democratic Convention Delegate. Her paternal grandfather was a Presbyterian preacher, and her maternal great-grandfather was the Methodist bishop for whom Hendrix College in Arkansas is named. I always enjoy reading Laura's biography. Very interesting. Please welcome Laura. Thank you. We will now prepare for the worship with our chalice lighting. It is Community Church's custom to light a chalice, invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join in singing "We Light This Flame." We are going to skip our words for all ages and move on to our music interlude. have our words for all ages with our education director, Cynthia Ramirez.
Sorry about that. I was running a little late. But this poem is a little appropriate. Hold On a While by Amos R. Wells. Drama. When all the sky is very black and all the earth is blue, all the fiends are on your back and howling after you. When courage falls and hopes decays and fair ambition dies, and all your dreamland is ablaze beneath the ebon skies. When you fain renounce the goal, nor plod another mile, oh, straighten up your drooping soul and just hold on a while. Hold on a while. The darkest night may bring the fairest day. Hold on a while. The good, the right will always find a way. Hold on, for is Jehovah dead? Is love an empty song? Hold on. Have heaven's armies fled before the host of wrong? Hold on, for still some strength remains, nor yield you till you must. A newer life may flood your veins, born of a larger trust. A newer life, hold on to that, a lily from the mud, the greening peak of Ararat emerging from the flood. The clouds are shattered by the sun, the earth all aglow. Away the howling devils run, and back to hell they go. Hold on for that. Do what you can, nor prove a craven elf, for heaven never helped a man until he helped himself. And when your fondest hopes are dead and fate has ceased to smile, 'tis then it pays to lift your head and just hold on a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. In our ancestral Christian tradition, we are in the season of Advent, the season of anticipation of what is to come. The message of Advent and its wreath is preparation and waiting in expectation of the coming of the Son of God, the Nativity. But also, people throughout time have waited for the coming of the sun, its solstice and the promise of warmer days. Advent is a time of the paradoxes of the fullness of life, and in celebration of that fullness, we light our version of the Advent wreath today. And I just extinguished that job. The candle of love is the first candle, but no love is strong without the experience of loss. The candle lit on the second Sunday is for hope, but no hope is possible without the possibility of defeat, for without it, hope is only dreaming.
Good morning. My first reading is by Napoleon Hill. If there was ever a time in this country when men and women need to recognize the power of their own minds, when they need to overcome frustration and fear, that time is now. There is too much fear spread around, too many people talking about depressions, Let's get our minds, each and every one of us as individuals, fixed upon a definite goal so big and so outstanding that we'll have no time to think about these things we don't want.
Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can give online at ccuunola.org/stewardship or by text at 504-370-2659. You can text the word give. You can also send us a check to CCUU 6690 Fleur-de-Lis Drive, New Orleans, 70124, and you can give in person, and it is so good to say that. You may come forward during our musical offertory, and if you are unable to come forward, you can raise your hand, and we will come to you. Thank you. Thank you, community, for your ongoing generosity. And now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you are online, you may write your joys and sorrows into the chat box of either YouTube or Facebook to be read out loud. If you are in person, there are cards of joys and sorrows. I believe, do you have those, Elizabeth? With Elizabeth? If you were not able to fill one out earlier, please feel free to find her. She can help you fill one out right now. Thank you. And additionally, after our musical interlude, and after we share, if you want to come up to the pulpit and share yours as well, that is an option as well. We have what looks like a joy from Heidi. Heidi Netherton is having a holiday party next Sunday after church, 12 to 2:30. It's a potluck. If you want to RSVP, she's at 504-952-0098, and she's at 1341 Chickasaw Avenue, Metairie. Okay, and all are welcome. Amy Holtkamp writes, after almost a year of renovations, most of which we did ourselves, Victor, Theo, and the dogs and I finally spent the night in our new house last night. An anonymous joy. It is a joy to have so much of our community here in person. It really is great to see the seats slowly fill up a little bit more every single week. It's been great. This is from Howard, I believe. I am joyful over the Messiah performance with Symphony Chorus on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Please bring your proof of vaccination. That is at St. Mary's Assumption. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to share either a joy or a sorrow at this time?
Do I have to go forward?
Not if you can project.
I can project. I was a teacher. I'm very happy to be back here in the teaching. That's my joy.
Amen. I will say it's nice to see the Rays here. It's been too long, and it's great to have you guys with us. All right, any others? All right, we will light 2 more candles, one for the joys still bubbling up, too new to share, and one for the sorrows that we cannot yet put words to. Please know that we love you and that we hold you in our hearts.
Today's second reading is from a post by Stephanie Hall Mitchell. It's hard to say that and pronounce it. It's kind of a strange name to me. Sorry about that. Okay. We have a choice. Doing nothing is a choice. Accepting the status quo is a choice. Waiting for the government to do the right thing is a choice. Hoping for a technological miracle is a choice. Using your talents to make change is a choice. Choose. And now, a time to act. In life, we are all faced with things we wish we could have avoided. But stuff happens, and sometimes we must cope in spite of our desires. And even careful planning doesn't always prevent problems. For instance, my first acting teacher taught that one must not ignore any big on-stage mishaps. To illustrate the point, she would say, if the set falls down, you can't ignore it. Somehow, you must incorporate it into the play. A few years after getting this advice, I actually had to put it into practice. I was in my early 20s, and it was the opening of a play. The set was poorly constructed, and I knew that sooner or later it was going to collapse. In fact, the afternoon of opening night found me in my bedroom literally praying, "Dear God, when the set falls down, not if, when the set falls down, please don't let me be on stage." This prayer request was not granted. Not only was I on stage, but the set fell towards me, and I had the next line. It happened when one of the characters, Uncle Stephen, stormed off, slamming the door behind him. When the actor slammed the door, that did it. The flat in which the door was set was knocked out of position and began to fall on me. I was standing next to the door. costumed as an 1890s ingenue, wearing a yellow silk evening gown and a Gibson girl hairdo. In other words, a picture of vulnerability. My instinctive and first reaction was to scream and throw my hands up to shield my head. Immediately, the two men closest to me on stage rushed over and wrestled the flat back into a tilted but temporarily secure position. The other actors on stage froze. My line as written was, "Charlie, I'll never forgive you for treating Uncle Stephen like that." This time I said, "Charlie, I'll never forgive you. You've upset Uncle Stephen so much that he's tearing down his own house." The audience, who had gasped at the obvious accident with the set, exploded into laughter and applause. Fortunately, the play was a comedy, and it was almost to the end. We managed to finish it as the playwright intended, and immediately after the curtain call, the elderly director dashed backstage and literally kneeled at my feet to thank me for saving the show. So, why am I sharing this story with you? What is the point? I think there are several lessons here. To begin with, my prayer was obviously not answered, but I received something even better than avoiding the anticipated problem. An early lesson that deity might have something in store of more value than I could imagine asking for. In this case, I learned something important about my ability to cope. And the incident didn't hurt my reputation any either. Now, while I might like to consider myself the hero of this story, I was not alone. The next lesson is that everyone on stage helped with the save. There were, of course, the two actors who stopped the flat from landing on me, and even the actors who froze did the right thing. I did have the next line. Anything they might have said or done would have only further muddled the performance. And the next day, the set designer made the needed repairs and adjustments, so we were able to continue the run of the production with no further worries set-wise. Everyone pitched in. We all played our parts. Which brings me to our current situation and the most significant of the lessons, both political and environmental. In the great scheme of things, as I see it metaphorically, the set is falling down, and we are all on stage. We must each play our roles to save the situation. Some need to freeze and analyze. Some need to rush to shore up, not unlike first responders. Some need to speak the truths that must be said. We may certainly wish that we didn't live in this time of turmoil and danger, but since we do, I feel that we cannot refuse to engage. I will frankly admit to you that I have a difficult time respecting those who deliberately refuse to face facts, who adhere to fake news, who bury their heads in the sand, or sit on the sidelines wringing hands and moaning without doing anything. As I see it, there are currently 3 issues that beg for attention and action. First and foremost is the crisis of climate change. If that is not addressed in a competent manner, the other issues really don't matter much. Without a viable planet, all other questions and concerns are moot. To quote Greta Thunberg, "Our house is on fire." The second issue is the pervasive racism that infects our society, harming not just the African Americans and other people of color, but indeed all of us. With apologies to W.E.B. Du Bois, it stains the souls of white folks while breaking people of color in every other way. Even the best-intentioned whites or perverted into racist feelings and thoughts by the culture in which we were raised. For example, in spite of my own upbringing in a progressive family, like Barack Obama's white grandmother, I am shamed to admit feeling frissons of fear when approached by big black men while walking alone after dark. And how much worse are those fears for those brought up in white supremacist families? This pervasive racism must be acknowledged and dealt with through educating, truth-telling, and more. As Whitney Young Jr. said in the summer of 1968, "We are a racist nation, and no way in the world could it be otherwise, given the history of our country. Being racist doesn't mean one wants to go out and join a lynch mob or send somebody off to Africa or engage in crude, vulgar expressions of prejudice. Racism is a basic assumption of superiority on the part of one group over another. And in America, it had to happen because as a society, we enslaved people for 250 years. And up until 1964, it was written into our laws. Earlier that same year, in January 20th, 1968, an editorial in the New York Times spoke truths that are as relevant now as then, perhaps even more so. I quote, "White people have not experienced the hurts and humiliations at the hands of whites that are the lingering heritage of millions of people of color around the world. Because whites have not experienced the anguish, they do not understand the anger. Even those people of color who have managed to achieve every outward success in the white man's world bear the psychic scars of centuries of injustice. When these old wounds are reopened, sometimes by the most innocent act or word of a well-meaning white, all the accumulated venom of ages pours out. It may be, and often is, rude and irrational. It may be self-destructive, but it is there, and it must be faced, not with scorn or anger or bitterness, but with compassion and understanding." That was over 53 years ago. It's now high time that message was heeded. My third issue is the state of our nation. If we don't take action, we will lose the democratic republic created by our Constitution. Since childhood, I have had a deep-seated faith in the ideals of this country, even as I fully realize that it has never truly lived up to those ideals. Native Americans, African Americans, all people of color, varying groups of immigrants, the differently abled, the LGBTQ+ community, and women have experienced only too well many of the flaws. But until my lifetime, I felt that those in power pretty much played by the rules. They knew better than to sabotage the Constitution by, for instance, not allowing hearings for Supreme Court nominees. Hateful and incendiary speech did not spew from the White House. People disagreed on policies, but we all worked with the same facts. Alternative facts were not an issue. However, to look on the bright side, this is a wonderful time for activists to engage. With this plethora of causes, of needs to be addressed, no one should have difficulty finding some way to make a positive change. Again, quoting Greta Thunberg, "No one is too small to make a difference." and as a teen crusader, she should know. Of course, these are my own priorities and suggestions. Your own causes and concerns may be different. We should all try to be our best individual possible selves and respond to our heartfelt callings. These days, instead of praying to avoid challenging circumstances or wanting to be off stage when the set falls, I might instead take a cue from the musical Hamilton. I want to be in the room where it happens. I want to be on stage. In other words, I want to have influence over the important decisions that are being made. I want to be listened to, respected, and yes, even followed. This calls for courage. I still believe what Franklin Roosevelt said at his first inauguration. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. Yes, fear is the greatest of our enemies. We may be afraid, but the thing about courage is that those who have it are not really lacking in fear. Certain situations leave any sensible person fearful. No, those who have courage are the ones who persist, who fight on, in spite of their reasonable fears. Or, as Kristen Hanna writes in The Four Winds, courage is fear that you ignore. It is that kind of courage that I call for now, for all of us. Now is our time to act. I admit that I have been and still am often outraged, sick at heart, and even despairing and feeling helpless in so many ways. Perhaps you feel the same. So I say to all of us, myself most definitely included, this is no time for us to indulge in these negative feelings. We must act. My friends, the set is falling down and we are all on stage. We can't ignore it or simply complain about it. We must act, wasting no time to save the situation. If you don't yet know what your role should be, then take your moment to freeze and analyze how you may best engage. There are many options for action. Here are some simple questions to consider. May I? Can I? Should I? First, may I? In other words, is my action legal? Not that illegality should necessarily stop you. After all, peaceful civil disobedience is honorable and effective, but it should be carefully weighed before being implemented. Second, can I? Which really means, do I have the necessary resources? These can include time, money, skills, knowledge, tools, and more. This will, of course, vary depending on the specific goal. Third, should I? It is important to remember that simply because one may and can, it doesn't necessarily follow that one should. The key here is to consider, is this a moral imperative? One way of confirming that might be to consult our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. Then, the final simple question is how? Here are some actions to consider. First, register and vote. And keep in mind this idea. Voting is not like marriage, where you hold out for your ideal match. No, it's more like public transportation, where you get on board with whomever is moving in the direction you want to go. Then, donate to causes and candidates, both time and money. Talk to people, canvass, listen to others, write letters to the editor, engage on social media, attend rallies and marches. They are great for boosting morale, inspiring, giving hope, and letting you know that you are not alone. Make art, music, dance. You likely won't be able to do it all, so pick what resonates with you. Do your part to save the show. All of us together can save it. Do not forget that we are the majority. Collectively, we have the energy, the will, and the determination. We also have the benefit of being right. As Allison Carney writes, if we were in an epic movie, this is the final battle. This is the moment now where all of us should put aside our individual whims and hang-ups. Focus on what really matters. Overcome the exhaustion and self-doubt to summon that last of our remaining strength and determination. And work together to save our world and our democracy as both teeter at the brink of destruction. Thank you, and blessed be. Today's benediction is from The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. Find your voice and use it. Take chances. Never give up. Thank you.